Hey everybody, this is John Harley with DentTrainer.com. Today we are going to be going over this kind of deep little ding on a Harley Davidson tank. We're going to be going over some of the methods that I use to actually repair the tank while it is mounted on the bike. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the silvers. They tend to do something that I like to call ghosting. And because of the depth of that dent, the top dent above the emblem there, I actually called the customer and let him know that it was likely that it was going to ghost a little bit. Basically, that means it was going to change color a little bit on the deepest impact point. So we'll explore that whenever we get there, and we'll just kind of roll along here in the tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and move into the tool that I'm going to be using to start the dent out. And what I have here is a double bend pick, and actually got it taped up with some Gorilla Tape. One of the reasons why I don't like to use soft tips in there, I'm always in fear that the soft tip is going to slip off the tip and end up in the bottom of a gas tank. And that would not be good. So here we go. I'm actually going through the filler cap there, protecting it with a microfiber towel. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in and keep that microfiber right on the edge. This is my pushing technique here. So I'm actually standing and looking down the tank there with my light up in front of it. And you can see here I'm actually starting to scroll around and push. One of the hard parts you're going to find on a Harley Davidson tank is just to see the tip of your tool. It's just so much of a thicker type of metal that sometimes you'll scroll around for a couple minutes before you can actually begin to see the tip of your tool. You can see here I'm actually pushing it up a little bit. However, one of the things about Harleys, you always have hidden crowns. Literally, you're looking at 360-degree crown work all the way around that dent usually. A lot of times I'll spend quite a bit at the beginning, even before I make pushes, and tap out the crown around the dent. You can see there I actually kind of widened it out a little bit, opened it up, if you will. Again, going in with some crown work here, tapping on that back edge around the top, just kind of loosening up the center of that core. And if you actually went into one of these without doing this type of crown work or knockdown exchange, you can really risk cracking the paint, and you can make that ghosting that I'm talking about so much worse. In fact, I think just because of the depth of this dent, it's almost like a thumbprint deep dent. We've got a deep little stretched area there that's going to ghost regardless. But anyhow, getting back to the tool usage here, another tool that I have, love this for the Harley tanks. This is a custom bend tool that I have. Again, using the Gorilla Tape kind of folded up on the edge there. This has a much deeper throw than we had here. Now this right here is my signature technique here. Ride the bike while you push it. I don't think you'll ever get a much more steady push than doing it this way. Great for cross-checking, looking down at the dent. It's just a perfect scenario here. So here we go, going right back on in for some pushing here. We've definitely got the outer perimeter of the damage loosened up nicely. I'm going to go in and just begin making some nice soft pushes. You got to put a lot of Gorilla Tape on the end of this because we don't want any pock marks from the back side of the metal. We want to move a lot of this out and then rely on our crown work to kind of lay it down. But you can see here the metal just moving so much better than our original pushing that we did with the first tool that we were using. This thing has a much deeper throw, more comfortable. It's like it was made for this position on a tank. So there we go. Again, going into a knockdown session. You're going to find that a lot on tanks. And usually, when we begin pushing and releasing the center, we'll get to the point to where it kind of reverts to like a crease from the cross-check angle. Got to do a lot of cross-checking on these things, but it definitely, you got to find that complementary angle and work it from that each and every time. So here we are again, going in there and just pushing that core out, relieving that pressure. You can see now we're actually starting to get the deepest core of the dent to lift. And that is just all because we released pressure from the edges and was able to go in there with that soft push with that tape and move a lot of metal along. I'm telling you here on these silvers and golds, if you go in there with a sharp tip and try to sharp tip it out all the way, you're literally going to see ghosting on almost every push that you make on a dent that's this deep. So here we go, again, making some pushes. You're kind of seeing the pattern shift to elongated crease there. And that's okay. Right now, we're just concerned with ironing out the deepest part of the damage. Once that's done, it's we kind of, you've heard me talk about this before. We're actually changing this dent into something that was once looked like a hard, deep dent to deal with, and we're actually changing it into a nice, shallow dent that we can handle much easier than that deep little golf ball thumbprint style dent. You can see here again, you can see the crease that I'm talking about, how it's shaping right into that straight line. You'll see this on Harley tanks, but you'll also see it when you actually unlock a really nasty glue pull dent. It just seems like when you're on a rail and you're trying to unlock a really, really deep dent on a rail with glue pulling, it tends to shape into that crease as well. So here we go. You can still see that I've got a slight pit right there in that deepest center. I'm still trying to work that out a little bit. I'm trying to shallow it up and just kind of tighten up the edges around that pit at this point. Eventually, we're going to go in for the kill shot. Get that deepest pit out. You can see here I'm kind of working by blending it out. Still concerned a little bit. I don't want to go in there and crack it. I don't want to see any of that. All right, so again, just loosening up that outer edge there. Getting it all prepped up for some real nice push work on the interior there of the deepest core. You can kind of see how it's opened up there at the top of the, right there by the top of that stripe a little bit. And that's fine. We'll dial that in here during our finishing technique. But you can see there, you can kind of see my tool scrolling around in there. And sometimes, like I said, that's the hardest part. I mean, you'll get it in there and you'll start scrolling your tool around, move it in around, and you're sitting here thinking, like, where in the world is it? And next thing you know, you'll see a little flash in your light shoot by there, and then you can kind of tighten your tool right back where you was at and dial it right in. So now you can see, kind of taking a deep look at this dent here. We're going to do a little bit of blending just to move that metal out. The thing you're going to find on tanks, because it's a strong radius or a curve right there, that you're going to find hidden crowns even appear during the pushing process. So, you could get all the crowns out of that dent to begin with and tap it out, all the way around, do a 360 around that dent with your hammer and knockdown. But just the pushing of that tight and strong metal is going to begin lifting little waves and crowns around the circumference of the dent. So you're in a constant exchange of crown removal, tapping down your center, opening it up, and pushing. And you're going to be in that exchange the whole time during a tank repair. It's not a lot like a door ding where you're slowly moving the center out and you can push it out. And sometimes I'll go through door dings on cars, on dents, on hail damage. In fact, I've went through hail damaged roofs without picking up a hammer and knockdown. And a lot of that's due to sharp tip movement. However, on Tanks, you're never going to be able to do that. You're always going to be lifting the dent and tapping it out, lifting it and tapping it out. And here is our other angle. So I'm actually standing up above and behind the tank at this point. So I'm actually on the other side looking down at that crease that I was talking about. This is the crease, the way that we had to unlock the depth of that dent. And now that we've got it unlocked, you can see here that I'm kind of going in there for the kill shot. I'm going in for that deepest core shot, and now I'm actually just scrolling around and tightening it up from that opposite angle. I have yet to find a tank that I've done the repair and it hasn't kind of molded into a elongated crease from a cross-check angle. I'll tell you one thing, being on the bike and keeping this tank on the bike, very, very steady pushes. And you're going to get a lot of this. There's a lot of folks that you're not going to want to remove the tank. I mean, we got a dent here that's a $300 repair. And, I mean, if I took the tank off, removed it, and did all that kind of work on this bike, the ends would not justify the means, in my opinion. It's a great angle to repair, and it's a good spot for to go through the gas tank filler and work it through that angle. As usual, blending from this angle as well. You're going to find yourself looking through this dent, finding all these hidden crowns from every angle. And I mean, you're never exempt from looking at this thing, cross-checking it in 360 degrees all the way around it. So again, you got to be bobbing and weaving, moving that head, dialing in your pushes from different angles. Anywhere that dent decides to go and shape, you need to follow that pattern. That's what I found is what makes a fast dent technician is the ability to immediately follow the pattern of the dent. So basically, you're not wasting any time at an angle that does not complement your pushing. I mean, you just need to be looking into them natural reflections, and when you start to see a dent shape up at a different angle, you need to move your light at a different angle. Essentially, it's little creases that appear inside of the dent, so you got to spot out which way that little crease is going and take your light down at the exact same angle as that crease. So when we talk about how to work a crease, how your light's got to be parallel with that crease when you look through it and you work it, you're doing that on a micro finishing level when you're doing these repairs. So the faster you're able to move into that cross-checking angle and distinguish the best angle to be pushing on that dent at that moment, the least amount of time you're going to be wasting, and you're going to become a much faster and much more fluent technician. So as you can see, we are starting to dial this thing in here.